Okay, I think I'm live. Okay, hang on, guys. Let me be with you just a second. Just want to get out of this feedback loop here real quick. Okay. Okay, hi. So I'm Stephanie Conkle, clinical hypnotherapist. And today I want to talk a little bit about past life regression. Past life regression. What is it? Is it real? Do we need to know this? Do we need past life regression in our lives? um, so I'm going to talk about it from two different perspectives. Oh, I'm getting an Amazon delivery. Okay. um, okay, so I want to talk about from two different angles here. And the first angle is just from the brain-based sort of scientific angle of this. And then the second way I want to talk about it is through the more esoteric, metaphysical way to look at it. So it doesn't really matter what camp you're in. Maybe you're all completely brain-based and everything has to be factual, everything has to be completely scientific, and that's cool because some phenomenon is occurring, and even if it's just the brain and not some sort of outside consciousness or consciousness that's outside the body that's inhabiting the body, yeah, let's put it that way. It's still a cool phenomenon. It's interesting, and it's interesting that the subconscious brings this up. Okay. So, what do I mean when I say past life regression? So, some of you probably have never heard of this before. I'm sure a lot of you have. But past life regression is when a hypnotist regresses somebody not just into their own past, right? Not just into like their childhood or their infancy, but all the way back before they were born. They can go to in between lives, so like to this waiting space that we sort of think of as heaven, and then to lives that they've had in the past, right? So maybe a common thing that you hear is, maybe I was Cleopatra in a past life. Well, we hear that Cleopatra won a lot, but not everybody can be Cleopatra, right? And I will sort of, talk about that in just a minute, touch on the whole Cleopatra thing. When I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, and when I do past life regression sessions with my clients, most of them don't go into a past life where they are a queen or a king or a princess or, somebody famous. Sometimes they do, but most of the time they go into maybe, more of an ordinary type of life. Sometimes it's just like a very dull life, or sometimes it's exciting life, but it's not that they were anyone that famous. Okay. So that's what I'm talking about. Now, when I got into hypnosis, I didn't believe in past lives or reincarnation at all. But I had people requesting past life regression sessions. And, after doing a lot of research and thinking about it, it was like, well, something is definitely happening. People are wanting these sessions, and I know that these sessions are possible. So it's something that is coming up from the subconscious. It could be real, something real that has happened, or it could be metaphorical. It could be like how the subconscious brings up dreams, right? So I went ahead and studied past life regression and got certified in it just to kind of learn how to do it. Because I thought, well, it's totally up to the client and their belief system, what they believe. It's not up to me and what I believe in, right? I don't have to believe in past lives for the client to believe in it if that's their belief system. What I know for a fact is that this is something coming from the subconscious mind. And if the subconscious is bringing it forward, then it's important, right? There's something there that we can work with at the conscious level, even. So that's why I started doing past life regression sessions, because I was getting requests for it. I trained in it, so I knew how to do it, and I was curious to see what happened, right? So what happened is that people requesting these sessions were going into past lives, and like I said before, they're not always most of them are not glamorous lives. Sometimes they are, but usually they're not. But what was so interesting about these sessions is that the client in somnambulism, even if they're in waking hypnosis, which means that they're still consciously aware of what's happening, something is coming up in their mind or their imagination, and they're able to describe in detail what is happening, right, in these past lives. I have this one client who regressed back to a time when he was sort of in the, I want to say it was like in maybe the Holy Roman Empire time, and he went back to he regressed to his wedding, basically, and the wedding ceremony. And this is a person who is not a historian, and was able to describe in detail what this wedding ceremony was like, right? After the session, I went and looked up weddings in that time period, and I sent him a link to this article that I was reading, and it was very, very close to what he described. I mean, there were nuanced differences, but very close to what he described that his wedding was like. So that was very fascinating to both of us. Now, it's not like a dream, because a dream comes at you in pieces. It comes at you fragmented, right? When you're having a dream, dreams don't make sense. They don't typically come to logical conclusions, right? Until you pick them apart, maybe, and analyze them and say this represents this, and this is metaphorical for this, etc., right? So it's not a dream. So I knew they weren't dreaming, right? My clients who I was able to get into profound somnambulism, they weren't even aware that they were even talking to me. They were dreaming, and they could wake up and tell me what they were dreaming about. But as they were dreaming, another part of their consciousness was talking to me, which I call the higher self. And the higher self was giving me very detailed information about the past life they were in, or lives, because I usually regress people to 2 or 3 or 4 different lives. Okay. And so what's interesting is that across all of my clients, no matter what their age, their gender, their religious beliefs, their political beliefs, right? They sort of all go through the same process, and they're able to report very detailed information back to me. And a lot of times they're not even aware of what they're saying, so I record it so they can go back and listen. Because I do take notes, but my handwriting is like chicken scratch, so they can't really read the notes, but I kind of take the notes for myself. And also because during these sessions, the hypnotist or the practitioner who does these has to be very patient, because if I rush ahead, then I'm missing things, because sometimes it takes them a minute to recall everything that is going on and describe it to me. So as I'm writing, that slows me down, so I'm not skipping them ahead, and then they're able to tell me what's going on. Because I've had so many of these sessions now with so many different people with different backgrounds, including Christians who aren't really supposed to believe in reincarnation, I now believe in reincarnation, and I think it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So now, if you jump over to the esoteric side, whether you believe this or not, that's, but I'm I believe it now, but it's after many years of doing this work that I finally do believe in that we do have a higher consciousness, right? And a higher self, and I do believe we have this sort of we're on this like karmic wheel, and sometimes being regressed into past life kind of can show you what's going on in this current life, why you're having to suffer in the current life. Maybe you're having to suffer to learn a lesson. Maybe you're having to suffer because you caused someone else suffering in your past. And now you have to, because the way karma works, now you have to be in the shoes of the person who you inflicted suffering upon. So now you have to feel it for yourself. So it sort of balances it out. That's not all suffering for everybody, but for some people, that's where their suffering comes from. Other people, their suffering could come from they want to grow their soul in some way. They want to help the planet in some way. So they chose the suffering before they were even born. And this is stuff that the higher self tells me while they're in deep trance, while they're in hypnosis, right? So it makes sense. And so that does kind of give you a sense of relief, like, oh, okay, so all of this pain that I'm going through, that's not in vain, right? Like there is a purpose for this. There's a reason, and this is actually helping in some way, whether it's helping me to grow my own soul or it's helping me to help the planet in some way. There is always good that comes out of suffering, and I know that sounds weird, but there is always something good that comes out of it, even if the only good thing that comes out of it is I will never treat someone else the way I've been treated, through this type of suffering, right? But whatever it is, it's always good. There's always a silver lining, and then that suffering becomes meaningful. And so a lot of times when people are confused, why am I going through this? I can put them in hypnosis and profound somnambulism, and we can find out the higher reasons for why they're going through it. So I can talk to the subconscious, and the subconscious can tell me the medical reasons, or like the client wasn't taking care of themselves, or sometimes the subconscious is very literal, and like for instance, this woman had this pain in her neck and she couldn't even turn her neck fully, and so she went to the doctors and they did what they could for her, and then when she got to the end of her rope medically, like most people do, they use hypnosis as their last resort. Like there's nothing else, no one can help me, these medications aren't helping me, so then they come see a hypnotist. Anyways, when I found out that the whole pain in her neck was actually a representation of her husband, and the whole time we were talking before I put her in hypnosis, she kept talking about how her husband was a pain in her neck. So then I knew that she had issues that she needed to resolve around her husband before the subconscious would agree to let that pain go. And so once we got a resolution there, then she was released from her pain and her suffering. Sometimes the pain is just like, pay attention. There's something going on that you are repressing that you need to look at and deal with and heal it. Okay, so sometimes that's why your subconscious will give you certain pains or ailments or whatnot. It's like you need to stop and look and listen. And if you don't do it, I'm going, excuse me. And if you don't do it, I'm going to do it for you. I'm going to send you alarms. I'm going to say, wake up. I may have to give you pain because you're being so hard-headed that you're not listening. Like, I'm going to give you pain so that something more horrible doesn't happen to you. Okay, sort of the idea of the child keeps wandering out into the street, right, with the busy street, and the parent like slaps him on the hiney and inflicts pain. I know that sounds horrible, but it's one of those things where it's like, well, the child can't reason like an adult, but it does understand pain, and it may not understand it's not going to understand getting hit by a car and dying and death, but it does understand pain. And so it will back away from the street because it doesn't want to get, she doesn't want to get the wrath of their parents, spanking or whatever. I think the subconscious kind of spanks you in a way, so that you don't get into more trouble, so that you don't go through something worse that is coming up. So that experiencing pain is probably better than suffering and dying some terrible death. Okay, so let's get back on the topic of past life regression. And this is a live video, and I want to see if anybody has left any comments. So I've got to switch windows for a second. So hang on a moment, and I'll see if you have any questions or comments. Go ahead and bring them up now, and I will do my best to answer them for you. Here we go. So it looks like one person. This is a live video. It's like one person is watching, but I don't have any, which might just be me. I might be that one person. That's okay. Okay. So no comments yet. So back to past life regression. Why do you need it? You don't actually need it to resolve whatever issue you're going through, because the subconscious can heal you where you are now. It can heal you in the present moment. It knows where everything originated, whether originated in a past life or your current life. It knows how to heal going forward. So it's not necessary to be regressing to a past life, but sometimes people just want to know who they were and what they did. Sometimes it's just a curiosity, and it helps them to understand themselves better, right? And they're pretty fun to do. Now, I get some people who don't go deep enough into somnambulism. I don't want to say that. Because they are deep in hypnosis. They don't go to the non-awareness state. So I do get people who don't go to the non-awareness state, who think that they're just making stuff up in their imagination. And I've got 2 comments to say to that. So the first comment is they absolutely could be making something up, especially if they're a very creative person and they like to make up stories or write books or whatever. They may make up something that feels good to them. Okay. So if they're not in the non-awareness state, they could be making it up. The second thing I want to say is that even though I think that maybe the more creative types who write books and stuff, they may make things up. But although those people tend to go into deep and profound somnambulism, those people tend to go to the non-awareness state, okay? But people who aren't very creative, or who don't classify themselves as creative, they're coming up with very detailed information as well, and they say, I think I'm just making this up. But it's the first thing that pops into their mind's eye. The first thing that pops into your mind's eye usually is from the subconscious, right? But then if you're still aware of the session, then you start doubting yourself. And if you start consciously taking over what's happening, then yes, you totally are making that up if you're consciously taking over what's happening in your mind's eye. But if you just allow the scene to come up and develop, and you're just dictating what you're seeing, hearing, smelling, feeling, right, then that, to me, that is coming from a past life experience, as long as you don't edit it. If you're still in the awareness state. Here's the other thing. If you get some sort of aha moment, if you get some sort of healing from it, if you get some sort of, catharsis from doing that, does it even matter? Does it even matter if you've made it up or if it's from a real past life? I think as long as, the ultimate goal is how you feel, as if you feel like you've had a breakthrough, if you feel like you've had an aha moment, right, then that's what matters ultimately in the final analysis. It's that you feel good, right? Okay, so I do personally believe in reincarnation now, which I didn't for a very long time. And that has really caused me to think back about my beliefs and my belief system, and what do I believe in, and why do I believe in this now. But that's something that you guys can do on your own for yourself. I've also thought about it from just purely brain-based angle. Okay, if this is just coming from the brain and not from some sort of higher consciousness, even if it's from the brain, like how amazing is the brain, right? I personally separate the brain from the mind. I think the brain, in my opinion, okay, I think the brain is a translation tool, and that the mind is the spirit of the individual. Now, I think the brain can function on its own without the spirit. It can function at the autonomic nervous system level. So that is, your heart is beating without you thinking about it, and you're breathing without you thinking about it, and yada yada. So when people are in, comas, or have like the near death experiences and all of that, and their consciousness goes outside of their body, but yet they're still alive. I think the brain is definitely, keeping them alive. And if they're sort of brain dead, there's something that's still keeping them alive, but their consciousness is just away for a little bit, and then it comes back, and then the brain can translate the mind, or the consciousness, the higher consciousness. And so I feel like we're a part of the bigger consciousness, and I'll get into that in another talk, because that gets very deep into spirituality. And right now, I just want to keep this on hypnosis and past life regressions. I'll do another video on present life regression, because there's so much controversy around doing just regular regression and repressed memories, right? There's so much controversy, and I'll get into that again in another video. But there's no controversy about past life regression. It's just, do you believe it or not believe it? That's basically it, and that's just something that you need to decide for yourself. So I, if you want to, and this is, so my schedule is like, pretty busy right now, but if you want to take a past life regression session from me, then just, I'll put some information in the link below where you can sign up for that. If you're a hypnotist and you want to learn past life regression from me, I'm thinking about doing like a Zoom workshop to teach it. So if that is something you would like to do or learn from me personally, just put a comment below that is something that you would be interested in. And if I get enough interest in it, then I will put on a workshop and give you more information about that once that goes up. All right, I am out of here. I'm going to go see what that Amazon package is. I love you and have a wonderful week. I'll see you in the next video. Like and subscribe, please. Thank you.